Hey guys, hope you're doing well. My name is Alex and welcome to the channel. I just came back from Geneva a couple of days ago and I was there for the Watches and Wonders show. It was a great time, a lot of fun meeting old friends, new friends, brands and seeing some fantastic watches. So in this video I would like to go through a couple of the brands I had some encounters with and also one that I didn't have an encounter with. But yeah, to give you basically my thoughts on some of the releases, what I liked, what I didn't like, and yeah, just go through them one by one. And let's start with the obvious one, the one I didn't spend any time with. It was Rolex. They released a couple of new interesting models, and as usual, Rolex is always the biggest talk of the show. So let's start with the biggest talking point, obviously the Lefty GMT-Master II with the green and black bezel. This was a complete mindfuck in some sense because, I mean, it feels, for me at least, like the watch is totally upside down. So what they've done here is that they have changed the crown position from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, but also changed the date position from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. So it gives you the feeling basically that the watch is upside down. And yeah, I don't really know what I think about this because I haven't really processed it yet. But I mean, it doesn't really matter because probably you'll never see it or be able to purchase it anyway. I won't get too long into that model because it doesn't really appeal me in any sense. What I find very interesting though is that they finally released the Platinum Day Date with the fluted bezel, and this is something that's always differed the Platinum Day Dates from the white gold ones. That is that the white gold ones have had the fluted bezel while the platinum ones has always had a smooth bezel. And it's been two causes because of the production of a fluted bezel in platinum is very hard, but eventually this year 2022 they finally made it. I'm not sure either about that one. I mean, for me, the Platinum Day Dates has always been synonymous with a smooth bezel. So, I mean, we'll see. I think, of course, this will be a big hit. And yeah. Then we had the upgraded Rolex Air King that now features crown guards, slimmer and more sporty case, a bit more sharp, and also have the more symmetrical dial since they have added a 0 before the first 5 at 1 o'clock. And I still hate this watch. I've never loved it, never even liked it, to say the least. And yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't do anything. I think it's probably one of the worst Rolex watches, or one of the worst modern Rolex watches, at least. So yeah, I mean, all in all, they also introduced, you know, yellow gold Yachtmaster 42. They introduced a shitload, excuse the French, dials for the Datejust and Day-Date lines. We now see, for example, the fluted motif dial that was released a couple of years back. Now we see it in more colors and in more different metals in the Datejust line, which I like. And now we also have green dials in Datejust 36 and 41s, which was only available, I believe, in the 31mm Datejust prior to this year. You see them now in 36 and 41mm models. So yeah, I mean, Rolex, all in all, it's Rolex. They don't really experiment that much. I mean, obviously the Lefty GMT was something new. Or you haven't seen it in a couple of decades at least. Not too overwhelmed to be completely honest, but that's usually been the case about Rolex releases the last couple of years. Oh, I almost forgot. One of the biggest things they did was to discontinue the Tiffany or turquoise dial for the OP41, as well as the yellow one and the red one. The Tiffany dial is only available still in the 36mm Oyster Perpetual line. So, I mean, you can guess what the value will be now for those. I mean, they were ridiculous before the fair, and now it will be, I mean, just complete insanity, I guess, on the second market. So yeah, moving on from Rolex to one of my favorite brands, of course, to Cartier. Cartier did release a couple of interesting pieces that have received a lot of buzz on social media. But let's start with the biggest release that was from the Cartier Privé line, where they revive historical models and give them a modern upgrade, so to say. This year it was the Tank Chinois, and the 100th anniversary for that model, and they basically put it in a larger case with the sunburst style that I really don't like. I don't find that very Cartier in my opinion. So the Tank Chinois in the Privé line is available in yellow gold, rose gold and platinum. It's a limited edition and it's completely sold out, I believe, already, since these pieces tend to go like that. They also released a kind of cool, actually, skeletonized version of that watch, also in 3 different models. I want to like it more, but I have tough time since I think the case is a bit too big for that kind of watch. So yeah, I mean, that's it for the Privé line. Then we saw 3 additions to the Cartier Tank Louis collection. We have 2 versions that features 2 dials that are very inspired from the Tank Must era back in the 70s and 80s. And the first one, that when I saw the press release, I didn't like it, but the pink gold version with the gray dial actually looks quite good. And they also had the red dial version in yellow gold. That one I still don't like. I don't really get it, to be honest. And also they introduced from last year, you know, the colorful red, green and blue minimalistic dials for the steel Tank Must. They introduced now a black dial version with a yellow gold case. That one looks really good and I really enjoy it. Manual winding movement for all of these 3. And I'm a big fan of the combination of a minimalistic black dial in a yellow gold case. One thing they did do that shocked me, to say the least, was that they took the steel version Tank Must and put in a black dial as well. And what shocked me is that a couple of months ago they released the same exact watch as a limited 50-piece edition for the opening of the Geneva boutique. So the only difference between this regular production model and the limited one is that the limited one features a black cabochon on the crown and also has a engraving on the case back. I don't like it because they should have done something more differentiating from the 2 models. I mean, now it's very subtle changes. But I understand that they are a company, they need to make money, and I'm 125% sure that this black dial Tank Must in steel will be a big hit, especially for the ones that didn't like the colorful versions that they released last year. They also introduced a couple of new Cartier Pachas. They reintroduced the grille that's been present on the models from the 80s. I like the grille. I don't like the modern Pasha. So yeah, that's about that for the Pasha. And then they did some upgrades to the Santos line as well. And they introduced some kind of, you know, bezel in blue steel treated somehow with a horizontal pattern. Didn't really feel that one. And it seems like not many do actually. But one of the biggest surprises, and this is from a model line that I've never really liked, that's the Santos Dumont line. And the reason why I don't like it is because I don't like the proportions of the case. And here they did something interesting that even I felt like, oh, okay, nice. I really enjoy the look of these ones. And even considering I don't like the dimensions of the case, I'm maybe willing to compromise a bit here with myself. And they released the Santos Dumont line in 3 metals, in steel, in rose gold and in platinum. The steel one comes with a black dial and has black lacquer on the case, while the rose gold one has a creamy ivory beige dial with beige lacquer on the case, and the platinum one comes with a red lacquer on the case with a silverish dial with red accents. And these three actually receive a lot of great feedback on social media. The platinum and rose gold one will be limited to 150 and 250 pieces, and I'll guess these will sell out directly, while the steel one is going to be standard production one. And it's actually the steel one I find the most appealing. So yeah, I mean, the price tag for the steel one will be around 7,000 euros, something like that. So it's not, you know, terrible to say. Also powered by manual winding movements, and the good thing is that they come in the large case and not in the extra large case that they have produced previous versions and more limited editions in. So that's it for Cartier. Let's move on to Patek Philippe. So, you know, it's been all about the Nautilus for the last couple of years. So this year we've seen the discontinuation of the 5711, and it wasn't really a shock that they didn't introduce any new sports models. We have the 5226G Calatravas, that is the simple three-hander with a date, and they have I really like the style. It's grainy and has fake patina, which I find a bit interesting from a brand like Patek Philippe. But yeah, I mean, this one looks really good. I like the gray dial with the texture. The only down part for me is the case size. It's like 40 millimeter. Very sharp angular lugs, but it doesn't really sit that well. They stick out quite aggressively from the wrist, so it's not for my wrist. And then they also introduced a travel time annual calendar with the same type of dial and case. It's the 5326G. This one I like a lot as well, but unfortunately, even though I can't afford it, the case doesn't really sit well on my wrist. Then one of the best releases from them was the 5205R. I've been a fan of this watch for many years now, and since they discontinued the white and black dial version, they now came up with a green dial. And green is obviously the trend of 2022 as well. I mean, we saw it already in 2021, but it's still, you know, the color, the go-to color for most of the brands. The 5205R is just a gorgeous timepiece, and yeah, I really enjoy that one. Then they also introduced two salmon dial versions in the 5172 chronograph in white gold, and also in the 5320 perpetual calendar watch, and those two look stunning. I mean, it's a salmon dial from Patek Philippe, looks good. They also introduced the 5217 platinum with a green dial with this kind of gradient effect. And this one will most likely be one of the toughest ones to get, since, I mean, it's platinum, it's the perpetual calendar chronograph from Patek. I mean, yeah. Then they also introduced a couple of world timers, since they discontinued some ones, and these look good as well. I'm especially fond of the 5230 in platinum. I think it looks good. But I'd like to see that they introduce the male version watches in the woman watch case, because they introduced one for women in rose gold with a green dial that looks great and it sits great on the wrist, but it has the diamond bezel and is obviously, you know, aimed toward the ladies. And yeah, I wish they could make more masculine watches in the same case size for men. So yeah, that's it for this first part where we covered Rolex, Patek Philippe and Cartier. And in the second part we will talk about Tudor, IWC, Vacheron Constantin, and also a bit about Hublot and Zenith. So stay tuned for part 2. In the meanwhile, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys.